In this detailed video, we'll explore the art of creating and customizing charts to make your data come to life. Charts in Excel are a powerful visual tool that transform raw data into meaningful insights. They help you grasp trends, patterns, and comparisons at a glance. Whether it's a simple bar chart or an intricate pivot chart, mastering Excel's charting features can unlock a world of data-driven decision-making. Let's explore through tutorial.
We have a simple data set where we contain months and the sales figures. So for that, we want to make a visualization that makes it easier for every one of us to understand that what the data is showing and which months are better performing than the other months. It becomes sometimes difficult to see through the data set that what it has to offer, but once you visualize it, so it becomes much more easier. In the Insert tab, we have section that contain charts, so we are going to click over here on this icon over here, and now we have further two tabs which shows recommended charts and all charts. So we can select either the recommended chart which the Excel has to offer, or we can go for the all charts. Once we place our mouse over the chart, it expands to show that how a preview is going to look like. We have different options over here that contain column, pie, bar charts, area charts, scatter plots, and other charting tools that are used in different scenarios. But most of the times we can use column, line, pie chart, and bar charts. So we begin with line chart. We select this. We press OK, and now we have the line chart for our data set. So what was difficult to extract from this data set, we can easily see that how our chart is performing. We have rough months over here. April was low performing, beginning of the year was low performing, then we peaked in between in June, and it is closing in December on the higher note. We can just click on the chart over here, press delete button, and we go once again in the Insert tab, and we see that what the Excel has to offer. So we can click on the recommended charts, and either we can select this line chart, we can select this one as a recommendation, we can go for the bar chart or the area chart. So we press OK, and it is going to, we go for the bar chart, and it has created a bar chart for us. We select the chart, we delete it once again, and now I keep my cursor within the table. I press Ctrl A, so all of the data is selected, and here I press Alt F1, and it gives me one of the recommended charts. Now if we want to move the positioning of the chart, we can simply move the position of the chart by dragging and dropping it. We can increase the size of the chart like this from the sides. So it is very much easy that how you want to show your chart. Now here we see that our graph starts from January to December, and we want our graph to start from April to December. So how we can do that? We can click over here in the plot area, and once all of this gets highlighted, we can just go on the corner, and once two-sided arrows start appearing, we can click and drag it down starting from the month of April. And here also we see on the chart that it is starting from April and ending in December 25. Likewise, if we want to reduce the closing month period to the extent of October, so we can again drag it over here. Another way of doing it is we go on the border of the selected data, and once four-sided arrows start appearing, we can just click onto it and we can drag our data selection. So now our chart is starting from January to July. One important thing to notice over here is that your data should not contain the totals over here. For example, if you have the total over here, and if the data gets selected like this, so it is going to ruin all of your chart. So it is better that you don't have the data totals, so your chart remains appropriate. We delete this chart once again, and for example, if we select our data like this, and then we select these closing months like this, we go in the Insert tab, in these column charts, and I click on this first option, and here we can see that we can make chart like this also. So it is showing the first 3 months, then it is missing all of those months which we didn't selected, and then it is showing the selected closing months. So you can filter the data like this also. we delete this chart. Now we see that we are having the line chart as our default chart. I press Ctrl A, I press Alt F1, and we can see that as a default we are having the line chart. So in the design tab, change chart type, I select the column chart and I want this as my default chart. I right click it and set as default chart. I press OK and the bar chart is appearing. I delete it once again, and now once I press Alt F1 and we can see that previously we were having the line chart and now we have the bar chart. If we want to move this chart to another sheet, we can just right click on the chart and here it says move chart. Where do you want to move? New sheet, chart 1. We can change the name, new bar chart 1. I press OK and here we can see that previously the chart was appearing over here and now it has moved to a new sheet. If I want to move this chart back to the original place, I can click over here in the design tab, move chart, and I want to move it back to the line charts. I press OK and now we can see that the additional sheet containing the chart has been deleted and the chart has been moved into its original position where the data source is. I delete this chart once again and now I press chart key. By pressing F11 we can see that the chart has been made on the separate sheet, so you can enter a new chart on separate sheet by pressing F11. Moving the bar charts back with the source data, I press OK. Now I have the chart back in my original sheet. If you want to modify the chart itself, we want to write anything, we can click over here and we can write sales, we can write monthly sales, or we can simply just select it and put equals to sign, and I want this as my header, so it is now showing the same. If I modify it for the year 2025, and now I can see that it has modified automatically. Once I click on the chart, we can see that we have 3 buttons appearing over here. So we're going to see that how these buttons work. Just expand it a bit, and the first one is chart elements. We click on the chart elements and now it is giving us different options which shows axis, title, chart titles, data labels, data table, error bars, grid lines, legends, and trend lines. So we are going to see that how each of these function works. Here the axis has been ticked, and because of that it is showing the axis data, that is months and the sales revenue. If I uncheck it, and here we see that the axis has been removed. And if we want to remove one of the axes, for example, we have 2 options over here, primary horizontal and primary vertical. So horizontal is x-axis, we uncheck it and it removes the x-axis from here. And likewise, if you want to remove the y-axis, so we are going to uncheck the primary vertical and it removes the y-axis from the chart. Here in the axis title, we can give the title over here. Again, as in the header, we can just click in this area and we can just type sales in dollars. I just select it by pressing shift and down arrow key, making the font a little bolder, larger and bolder, and applying the same over here in this axis using the format painter. And now we can change the name months. Next is chart title. Chart title is this. If we don't want this, we can uncheck it, and if we want it, we can check it. Data labels, if we want the data labels, so it is going to show the data label over each of the bar. If we don't want it, we uncheck it. Data table, now it is showing the data table underneath the chart. Error bars, we can show the grid lines or remove it. We can show the legends, trend line. So we can use all of these elements to make our chart more descriptive. Now moving on to the next option, we have chart styles and chart colors in 2 different tabs. In styles, we can scroll through any of these charts and we can select any of these charts. Likewise, we can go in the color and we can select any of the color. For now, we stick with our original chart, and here we have the chart filter option. For example, as we saw earlier, that by pressing Ctrl and selecting the required data, we can make the filters in our charting. Here also, if you want to remove the January and then March and then June, and we apply it, and now we can see that it is showing that all of these months are missing. The January is also missing over here. If we want to remove the filters, we just check it all, apply it, and now complete data is appearing over here. Moving on to design tab, the charting elements, colors, styles, filters we saw, we can see that all the elements are appearing over here, layouts are appearing over here, the colors that we saw are appearing over here, and all of the chart styles we can select from, which we saw earlier in these three buttons, are also appearing in design tab. Once we are in the chart, we can go in the format and we can make the formats. For example, we want to fill the shape with black color and we want the font to be white to make it more prominent, so we can make changes like this. Likewise, if you want any styles to be applied over here, we can use like this, selecting for the months to make the data more appealing and enhance the image quality. So we have different options over here which we can use. The colors, we want to increase the weight of the line, we can increase that. We can introduce the solid line or the dashed lines. So all of these options can be applied from the format tab. Now once we have made all of these changes and we want the changes to be saved, so we can go in the design tab, and here we can go and select change chart type, and now in template we press OK, and this template has been saved. So if I'm going to delete this, I select Ctrl A, press Alt F1, and now we can see that all the changes that I have earlier made have been discarded. So I can just go in the change chart type in the templates over here, I press OK, and I can see that all the formatting that I had done earlier is appearing as I wanted it to be. So I don't have to change all of the formatting once the template is saved. So you can just go and select the template and it is going to apply all of the formatting like that. We go once again in the change chart type, we select it, we go in the templates, and here we see an option of manage templates. We click over here. So if we have more than one template, we can manage the templates over here. Once we click on the chart, this is the chart area, this one is the plot area within the grid lines, and this is the axis. So we're going to see that how we can modify each of these three areas. Once I click on the chart area, I double click over here and it gives me an option of format chart area. This option gives me fill, effects, and size and properties. So in fill, we can just click it, and if you want to change the color, for instance, if I select this to be blue, so I can change the color like this. Likewise, we can change the color of the border as well. This is the border, this area is going to be the border area of the chart, so we select black color for it, and here we can see that it has added a black line to the border. If we want to increase the width of the border, we can just increase the width of the border. We can introduce compound style. Either we want a solid line, which is a simple one, a double line, so we can make selections over here, and we have further options over here also. Over here in effects, we have shadows, glows, soft edges, and 3D format. So you can select from any one of these options and you can apply. And lastly, we move in size and properties for the chart area, and here we can just change the size, width, properties, so we can apply different options over here. And we have text options, so we click on text option, and here in the text field, for instance, if I select any one of this and I want to make changes to it, I want the text to be written in any other color than black, so I made it green, but it is not appearing properly, so I just make it white again. And here you can change the text coloring like this. Same, you can change the text outline, and in text effects we can add shadow, reflection, and glow, soft edges, 3D format to the text. And lastly, we can change the text boxes over here. For instance, if I select onto this, alignment, center middle, and I can rotate it like this, so we can see that it has rotated like this, and now it is horizontal. Previously it was vertical, so we can change, or if we want to have a custom angle to it, so I just type 45% and now it is giving me 45%. Or if I want to make the direction otherwise, I put a minus sign and now it is appearing like this. So I just keep it 0 and keep it horizontal. Now once we are done with the format of the chart area, we can click over here within the grid lines, and now we are going to format the plot areas. It again offers different options. For instance, if I want to change the color, I can make it like this, and if I want to reduce the transparency of it, I can just dim it a bit. Here in the border, if I want the border to change, I want a border that is dark green, and I want this to be a little bolder. And compound type, I want double line. So now our border has a double line which is green, and here we can add effects to it. If I want to add a shadow, glow, soft edges, or 3D format, so I can add these effects to my plotting area. Once in Format Access, we have same options. We can fill in the color, we can change the line type and color, we can add the effects, we can again change the text directions, vertical alignment. For instance, if I change the text, so it has changed the text direction, but we keep it horizontal. And over here in Access option, we have interesting options. Our data is up to 100,000 and below, so if we make our data set to 100,000, here we see it is going up to 120,000. So if I just make it 100,000 and I press enter, and now we can see that our access has been made up to the maximum of 100,000 in revenue. So our data has expanded and it is appearing more appropriately now. For example, if we want to start from the minimum of 20,000, so again we can type over here 20,000, press enter, and now it has started the y-axis from 20,000. So I make it 0 once again. One more thing to notice, if we think that this y-axis is appearing very much cluttered and we want to have the gap of 20,000 in revenue, so we can just write 20,000 over here. I press enter, and here we can see that now it is lesser cluttered and it is giving the revenue with the gaps of 20,000 each. Likewise, if we have a very large figure over here, so we can change the display units over here. We go and click on this drop down. We have in thousands, so I select 1000, and here we can see that it has reduced it to thousands, and it has mentioned over here that the figures are in thousands. So you can clean your data in this way also, because if the figures are going to be very large, so it becomes really cluttered and becomes difficult to understand. And now we have other options of tick marks, labels and numbers which you can explore further. Now we move towards our next chart where we have multiple items for multiple months. So once again, I keep my cursor over here. I select my data by pressing Ctrl A, and I press the recommended chart. I press Alt F1, and here I have the bar chart appearing over here. Once we have a chart, now we see that we have the legends of the bicycle type appearing over here as legends, and the months appearing in the x-axis. But what if we want the situation to be reversed, that we want the month to be appearing in the legends and the bicycle type in the x-axis? So this is very simple. So we can just click over here, switch row and columns, and once we click on switch rows and columns, and now we can see that the bicycle type becomes the axis, that is x-axis, and the months become legends. We move this chart to this side a bit. But what if we want the chart in each of these cells? So we are going to select all of this data, and now we go in the insert tab, and here in the insert tab we have an option of spark lines. We have selected the data range earlier, and now we want the charts to be appearing in this range. I press OK, and here we can see that we have the charts appearing in each of the cell for each of the row. So we can change the spark line color, we can change it to red, and we can set the high points in the charts, low points, negative points, if any, first, last points. So we have all of these points appearing over here. Now we click on the drop down menu and we can select any of these charts. We can go again in the sparkline color, and here we can increase the weight of the line to make it more prominent. We expand the width of the cell, so each line is showing graphically that what the scenario is. I click on the chart, and here I go in the design tab, and we can change the chart type to line chart, and I press OK, and here we can see that we have the line charts that are appearing over here are appearing in one chart. Now moving on to pie chart, we have this simple data set where we have bicycle types and sales revenue. We want to see that how much each of the bicycle type has share in the market. So I click over here, press Ctrl A for selecting the data. I press Alt F1 and it is giving me bar chart. I go in the change type. Here we can select the pie chart. I select this pie chart. I press OK. Or simply we can go in the insert tab, and here we have an option of pie chart, so we can select the pie chart from here as well. So I click over here, and here I can see that I have colors over here, but I don't know which color is which bicycle type. Once I hover over it, and it shows me that this one is the kids bicycle, this one is the road bicycle. But if I take a printout of this, so no one will know what it means. So we can go in the design tab, and here in the quick layout we have different options over here. This one shows the percentages, this one shows the percentages as well as the category of each of the bicycle. I click on this, I click on the text over here, I go in the home tab, make the font white, make it bold, make it little large, and bring this one over here because it was appearing on white, so no one could have read it. Moving it a bit over here, so now it is more prominent. And this is how you can make quickly a pie chart indicating that how much each of the category contains share in the market. And lastly, we're going to move towards the pivot chart. Pivot chart works same as the pivot tables, and as the powerful the pivot tables are, likewise the pivot charts also function the same way. I select all of the data by pressing Ctrl A, and we go in the insert tab, and here we have a pivot chart option. I click over here and it gives me an option that whether I want to enter the charting in new worksheet or existing worksheet. I'll go with the new worksheet. I press OK, and here we have the chart area. We have the pivot chart fields as we have the pivot table fields. Now the pivot chart field works in the same way as the pivot table. If you want to understand a pivot table, you can click on the link above. So now let's build a chart based on the pivot chart fields. So I put the date in the legends. I want the quarters only, so I just keep the quarters. I click and drag the product in the axis and the quantity sold in values. And here we can see that we have the chart over here. Above that we have the table, and below that we have the chart. So I just close it to make a little spacious for us and drag it over here, so we can see that for each type of the burger that is on offer, we have quarter 1, 2, 3 and 4 sales appearing over here. So with a few drags and drops, you can see that we have made a very strong visualization which gives us an idea that how each of our category is performing in different quarters. And we can go in the insert tab, we can add slicers. I go and select the country, press OK, and now I have an option of seeing all of this data country wise. For example, if I select USA, it is showing me USA. If I select France, it is showing me France. If I want to make multiple selections, so I click over here, I can select this. So now it is showing me data about USA, France, Thailand. And if I want to see the whole range of data and I want to clear the filters, I can click over here, and now it is showing me all 5 countries. So this is how you can make your reporting dynamic.
That's it. Well, if you've liked the content, then make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And make sure that you give your comments down below in the comment section. Your comments act as a navigation tool. And see you soon. Take care and bye-bye.